Hey, Daniel.
And what? Where's West? Where?
Okay, so here's the thing. I've been watching a lot of your shows recently. Like, I started out with the Facebook Live, and then I said, oh, he's on YouTube. I went to YouTube. I noticed that you wear a lot of vests, and recently over quarantine, I've sort of become a really big vest fan. I've been researching different types of vests to wear. I know that you seem to be a vest connoisseur. I mean, you're wearing a vest right now. And if you don't, so I'm sort of thinking I'm just gonna cut the sleeves on my shirt. Just maybe make some, I might have to take a knife down here, but just sort of, I wanna, learn how to make and wear vests. And I know that, well, yeah, that's
Okay, so
why
that's
I'm
the
here.
best improv skit you could come up with for this. Was the vest thing? Really? Where's your dad?
Yeah, because what?
Where is your father, Sadie?
He's not, he's not here. I told him to go to Old Navy to go get some vests.
Yes.
And you're backing her up on this? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Sadie, who is this guy?
Well, I went to school with him. His name is Vic, and he makes vests.
And he makes vests. Okay.
Yes, he does. He
'Cause-
wanted
'cause
to
you-
see. I said no. Daniel has really good stitching on his vests. Look at it. It's got to be like a, like a V for vest, V rating thread count on his vest right now. Why don't you take a look, and then maybe we can make a prototype or something. Make a really good quality vest.
So you're like super committed to this bit. This is the bit you actually want me to put out there on the show on a vest. Really?
I wish it was a bit, because if it was, then I wouldn't have stayed up all night researching vests. But it's not.
Really? Okay, because honestly, because now don't get me wrong. I mean, this guy looks like a tailor. I mean, he looks like somebody who is,
There's a reason for that.
Well, actually kind of looks like Zach Galifianakis, or he kind of looks like he kind of, who he kind of reminds me of. Have you seen the show What We Do in the Shadows? He kind of reminds me of Guillermo with the beard.
I also like that you're referencing the show and not the movie, considering the movie is a million times better than the show.
It really was. But I find myself watching it, and it's I was really trying to give it a chance.
I haven't seen much of the show, so I was just wondering if actually, like, on any of the episodes, have any of the characters worn any cool vests at all?
They wear vests all the time. They were my They were my inspiration for wearing vests, because these guys are, well, there's one who's like a Victorian English vampire. So, that's what's inspired that. But
I noticed that you tend towards sort of like a you look like a saloon general store manager.
I do. I was very, exactly. I was very inspired by Mr. Olson on Little House on the Prairie, because
never saw it, but I get the reference.
Because honestly, I think his kids and his wife were awful, but he was the general store owner, and he was great. And also Sam Drucker from Green Acres, which was another very old show. So
yeah.
But I really can't believe you've put that much thought and commitment into this bit about my vest. Okay,
it's really not.
You've been holding on to. You've been holding on to this since last week when we talked, and you were really I think you were kind of upset. But we've been
last week, and if you go back on YouTube, you'll see that there is no scene in which
I know. You weren't. It wasn't in this day. We cut for time and everything. But I've had enough of you, and I'm going to talk to this guy to see if he can actually help me make a vest. Okay, to actually, to help me with the vest, since you were obviously not contributing to the show, Sadie. You, dude, what was your name again?
Vic.
What was your name? What name did she give you?
It was, your name is Vic Vest.
Vic the Vestment.
Vic Vesta.
Vic Vesta. That's, oh my God. That's,
He's.
I can
okay, see that you're a little bit flustered. I feel.
Well, I'm flustered because the character name you picked for your friend is right on the nose, Sadie. Come on. Vic Vesta, really? It's That's so on the nose. Okay.
Vesta. That's where you got the name. That's where the word vest came from. Because in like the year 1300, the Vesta family started. They were saying, well, like my midsection's a little bit, cold, but like my arms. So they started making vests. And now, thousands of years later.
Well, you are actually you're
I'm a direct descendant of the Vesta family.
Yep.
Well, you are that is good, except for the most important part. You forgot to bring in the waistcoat wars, where the name Vesta was finally settled on.
That's true, but that's like
the waistcoats.
Yeah.
We don't talk about
because
are you kidding me?
Because they were brought in
with the Vesta in the Zoom.
Well, I think it's important that we have equal voice for both sides of this conflict. Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
And Willard Waistcoat was one of the leaders of the movement for mid-body covering.
No.
I mean, he was also a super racist, so we don't go there.
I really
stole that from my family.
Yeah.
Really? No, because my understanding was in the 1200s, it was the Waistcoat family that came forth in England. And I know you think this is white privilege, but it really isn't. These are the facts of the matter. Willard Waistcoat and his family brought forth the need for mid-body protection in the summer, and not in the summer, excuse me, in the spring and the fall months.
You know what?
We're wearing a.
Can I interject? I heard a story. My like 12th grade history teacher told us. So back when the waistcoats first came to America, they made waistcoats, but they also had a lot of just like extra fabric, things like that. And I heard that they gave smallpox waistcoats to all of the natives in the area. So, gotta stick with a vest on this one.
Well. And Sadie, I'm sorry, but the information your teacher's obviously,
it wasn't you. It wasn't you. If anything, we're all team vests over here. We got the Vesta down here.
Okay, with the waistcoaters.
You wearing a vest. We have me.
Excuse me, I am not wearing a vest. See, this has a collar, thereby making it a waistcoat.
Ooh.
I don't know if we can be here.
Yeah, really? Listen, Vic, I appreciate, I understand your family and your sacrifices and everything, but this is a waistcoat show. Okay, you can either get on board or get off my show.
I can put it aside for now.
Yeah.
Just go scream into a pillow later.
You know what? Good for the debate.
Big thank you to the pre-show players. They're available for your dog's bar mitzvah, your cat's birthday, or your ferret's funeral. Log on to youshouldhavepaidfortalent.com. Our first guest tonight is a longtime friend of mine going back to my days at the Comedy Store when I first got to Los Angeles. He's going to share a story about how he went from a black belt martial artist to a stand-up comedian, back to a black belt martial artist, stunt coordinator, fight choreographer. Would you please welcome John Kreng. John Kreng, how are you doing?
Thanks, buddy. Haven't seen you in a while. Long while.
No, we haven't. You were doing, you for the most part were doing stand-up at the Comedy Store. I was doing pretty much everything but. Mitzi just did not like me as a stand-up.
Oh, what? No, you just got to change that last name. It's too long on the billboard.
And I wouldn't do it. I'm like, I've already been stuck with this Polish hell for a quarter of a century. I'm not letting it go now. Oh, no.
Just like Arnold. You call him Arnold Strong. How about you, Daniel Strong? Yeah, that's it.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to Argus. Have him. You can open for him if you change your name this weekend.
Oh my goodness! It was hysterical. There's so much that went on there.
Oh yeah.
But I met you. You were already a black belt in what in karate?
Totsuno and Japanese jiu-jitsu.
And Japanese jiu-jitsu. So wow. So yeah, you could mess up a dude back then. Yeah, even back then. Yeah.
What's funny was Richard Pryor and Sam Kinison would kind of kid around with me, and then Richard would ask me to walk him to his car. Because you know how people were with him back then.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Coming at him. And this when he was able to walk and all that stuff. He goes, "Hey John, you mind walking me back to my car? I know you can take care." He goes, "I know you can handle shit." I was like, "Yeah, sure, anytime, whatever, Rich, whatever, sure." And he goes, "Yeah." So it just, so it was just, when Rashawn wasn't there, I would do that. Rashawn was the guy who was his main bodyguard, but sometimes he didn't show up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Spots and just kind of leave. So I just, "Hey John, you mind walking me back to my car?" "Yeah, sure, of course."
The entire time I was there, and I didn't see Richard Pryor till after I left. Oh. So I did not see him. I did not see Sam, but I got the biggest compliments from Charles Fleischer, and from Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh, nice.
And Dice, he was standing in the back. He's like, "Hey, hey Daniel, I like you a lot. You know why? Because you're out here, you're doing your job, you're paying attention, you're watching, and you're one of the few people around here keeping his fucking mouth shut, Yeah. And that was when Michael Parisi and Jay London were following him around like little puppies.
Oh my God, those names. Yeah.
What?
What year was that?
That was 92.
Okay.
1992. I came to work there when I first got to LA. When I found out I was not going to make it as a porn star, I went to work at the Comedy Store. I got there, and I think it was like Labor Day of 1990. And we'd gone out for a show, and Paul Mooney had righteously pissed off my members of my family, and I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Oh, nice. What did he say?
Oh, he just did his set.
Oh,
he just did his set, and you had your entitled folks out there, and it was back when Darkman came out. You remember his bit about Darkman? Darkman. I heard Hollywood. and I'll say it 100 times a day, made my teeth whiter. Ain't that a bitch? You made that word, and now you can't say it no more. He was brutal. Oh. Yeah. And then of course we had the really politically correct comedians who would say things like, you're getting old when you find all your favorite records in the nice price section down at Sam Goody.
Yeah, I wonder who said that. Nobody would say that.
I wonder who said that one. Yeah. So now, are you still doing stand-up?
No, not really. I mean, I got burnt out, and at the time, what happened was my sensei was dying.
Oh.
And I went through a divorce, and then about maybe 8 months later, I met this woman I was dating at the time, and she was going through cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it just got to a point where it was a little difficult to be funny on stage.
Yeah, well, that especially that kind of trauma, and
also, I mean, it was just like, it made me kind of question, I mean, I enjoy stand-up. I enjoy it. It's just the business aspect was not. It was, I mean, getting on stage was the easy part. The hard part was actually dealing with the bookers and getting.
Oh yeah, well that's the hardest part of any entertainment endeavor.
Right.
That's why I'm doing this the way I want to do it. Otherwise, I'd have an entire production crew sitting there telling me every little move to make, and and so I'm doing this up. It's going to be an even bigger deal next week, And
cool.
so you're like, well, why didn't you put me on then? But I have to make sure all my production value looks good. That's what. So that's what's going on with that. Wow. You kind of took the wind out of my sails with the whole cancer thing. And I imagine that's what it did for you back then.
Yeah. I mean, also it just, I got burnt out,
Oh yeah.
At the time it was just, there weren't that many Asian comics at the time.
Oh yeah.
I was dealing with a lot of crap. And I was like, you know what? And the thing was this, at the time, I don't know if you know this. I started actually when I got to the store. I was doing. I was performing there, and then also what happened was I met a chiropractor who put my leg back together because it got badly injured.
Well, yeah. That's what started your comedy career, as I recall.
So he put it back together, and I was in rehab for about a year. So while I was doing stand-up, and what happened was I decided, he told me one day, he goes, you can start training now. You can start training where you were back then. I was like, really? So I started training and then getting back into shape. And within 6 months, I was asked to work on a Jet Li movie.
Oh my goodness. I love Jet Li.
Awesome. He was still in his prime. So
yeah.
I was in his fourth movie. This was in 86. So
was this 86 or 96?
86.
Was it 86? Oh, okay.
The movie came out in 92.
But
what?
Because you did Hook in 91. I remember that. Yeah.
This was actually right before that.
Yeah.
So what happened was we did this. I did this, and then what happened was we were. I thought about it. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool because I was working with a Hong Kong crew. The guy that trained us was one of Jackie's boys.
Oh. And
he told us so many stories, and I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. It's hard. I almost got run over by a car. But, it was. I thought this is something I always dreamt about doing as a kid. So, yeah, and I didn't tell many people at the store. That's what I did because, they kind of look like, what, So I mean, comics are the most cynical people in the world.
Oh yes. Well, that's part of the reason I left is like. I didn't have the drive to be a stand-up comic. I wanted, I appreciated it, but I realized I've always wanted to do basically what we're doing here right now. I've always wanted to be a show host. I just wanted to talk to people. I've always wanted to talk to people that were more talented, smarter than I am. That's what I wanted to do. And I just wasn't, and I was never going to get stage time from Mitzi. I did, I do remember hosting from the piano though. That was always fun.
Oh, that's fun. But, here's the thing. You weren't in, there's a lot of people that ended up making it that
right.
weren't a part of the store. So it was back then it was two places.
Oh yeah. It was either the Improv or the Comedy Store. And I remember that feud. Ooh.
Yeah. But,
yeah.
Now that things kind of open up, things have changed. It doesn't matter. Look back at those days. There were some guys that she turned down that end up making it huge.
Well, there's few that I kind of justify. Dennis Miller comes to mind. It's like, she didn't like
improv comic then.
Oh yeah, and so, and there were a lot of folks. But she always remembered me. I guess great. And that's that says something. It's not like I was like somebody that she always acknowledged me every time I came back. It's like, oh, Daniel, how are you? And I didn't get to find out about her memorial, but always loved her to death. So I guess Danny Stone passed too.
Yeah, a lot of guys that we knew back then passed.
Yeah, because honestly, I was watching Maron's show. And Joey Diaz's character reminds me so much of Danny Stone. I was like wondering. I was like, do you think, because what Joey Diaz is like that in general, I guess. But I saw Eddie Papatone and.
Oh yeah. I saw Mark Maron at a SAG screening of Glow.
Oh.
And I talked to him a little bit afterwards. I go, look, I know you won't remember me, but my first day at the store when I got picked up as a regular, and you had to kind of go,
Oh, yes, exactly. You went through the non-paid regular spots first.
Yeah. So my very first night was Mark's last night there at the store.
Oh, wow.
So he kind of ran me through the ropes. Goes, all right, this is what you got to know, blah, blah, blah. And he, and I was like, I told him, I go, I don't know if you know this, but you kind of broke me in my first night at the store, and it was your last day. And I think you were thinking about moving to Arizona at the time. I can't remember, but he's like, oh, wow. And we started talking. And then I started bringing up some names that we knew back then. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it was fun. I mean,
oh yeah. Well, I think that there was a point he had come upstairs to the office when I was still working upstairs. And I remember vividly sitting at that desk outside of Mike Becker's office.
Oh yeah.
The reception desk.
Yeah.
At the time, Michael Nordstrom was there, and of course Russell Starlin. There was Emilio. These were all like the guys that kind of hung out during the daytime, and so we were working as the runners.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And so we would answer phones during the day. And right outside of Mike Becker's office, right there by the belly room.
Yes, I remember it vividly. I answered those phones for a year.
Oh yeah,
so.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Well, Mitzi got me off the phones. She didn't like the way I answered the phones. I was I don't know what it was.
A lot of people.
No. But I think she did like me. I was just such a mess of a kid back then. But we're here to talk about you. Okay, it's like, stop bragging there, Dan. No, we're talking about you. So you did your movie with Jet Li, and you've gone on to do several other movies, and you are now considered a great source for fight choreography, for assembling the fight scenes, which that seems like a lot.
It is. It's, if you look at it as a 3-act structure,
you're
telling it non-verbally. That's the best way I can describe it to anybody that kind of looks at it and go, "Oh, I'm overwhelmed. I can't do this, can't do that." But the whole thing is, you're going to design a fight.
You're designing a fight in a 3-act structure.
Yeah.
Each individual fight within a particular motion picture or TV show is part of a 3-act, is itself a 3-act play.
Yes.
You're building up to the climax, and then boom.
Right. Yeah, there's a beginning, middle, and there's got to be a reason for it. Just like any scene, there's got to be a reason for the fight. There's got to be a turnaround. There's got to be a twist, and there's got to be something that ends the fight. Just like any scene or any 3-act structure, something's got to end it. And what happens to the characters after that fight, into the scenes that aren't action oriented, is a good fight scene.
Exactly. If it carries into that scene and moves it along, that's an impressive. I honestly don't know how to respond, John. It's like, oh wow, that makes total sense, and I totally get that. And now you have I've seen you voice your opinion, and I heard you voice your opinion on more than one occasion about what you feel to be a really bad fight scene or the show. Then you said, oh, that their fight scenes are awful. Did you want to share any of those?
No, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of fights that when a filmmaker or a choreographer thinks that it's about all the cool moves. Yeah, it isn't, because it's essentially, mental masturbation if you really think about it. It's like, why have the fight? Because I just want to look cool. I just want to have cool, because I have dealt with some filmmakers or performers that just want to look cool. They don't care about why they're there. They just want to,
they want to do the really impressive move, and
right.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for it. And the thing is they don't understand that if you insert that scene for no reason, or it doesn't advance a story,
Yeah.
you're going to lose the audience. That's all there is to it. And I try to explain that to actors and filmmakers and producers, that you stand a chance of doing this. And sometimes they listen to me, sometimes they don't. It's my friend Dan Speaker, who's a swordmaster on Hook. He calls it cool move-itis.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah.
So, you know, it's, but you see it all the time.
Yeah.
And not just in the West, you see it in Europe, you see it in Hong Kong. They do that all the time. But the good choreographers like Yuen Wu Ping, Sammo Hung, Jackie, there's a reason behind what they do, and there's an emotion that changes. It's not always anger.
Right. Exactly. Well, you know, that you mentioned Jackie, and that's a great example, because you know, obviously he'll do something, but you know, he'll do a move from a ladder. Well, he needed to be up that ladder. There's a reason he ran up that ladder. There was a reason for everything. And I want to share a theory with you, and I want to see if you buy into this, because Star Wars, as we know, is, in my personal opinion, is based on kung fu movies. Part of its mythos is kung fu movies.
Are you talking about the 4, 5, and 6, or 1, 2, and 3, or the 7, 8, and 9?
Well, actually, pretty much. Well, the early ones, obviously, but I'm thinking 4, 5, and 6. But actually, in this case, I am going with 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
I'm using 1, 2, and 3 because I'm using the example of the most reviled character in Star Wars history, and I have a theme, and I have a theory, and it's actually been shared by somebody else, and that is that Jar Jar Binks is in fact a drunken master.
I can see where you're going with that.
Because well, you know, the one of the classic characters. Matter of fact, did you watch Into the Badlands?
I've only watched a couple episodes. I'm so far behind because we were so busy trying to get our production company started.
Yeah.
Just need to catch up. I mean, we have Netflix, so I definitely got to catch up on it.
So far, I think they only have 3 seasons up there, and I think it went 4. I think it went at least 4. I think it went 4 seasons. Yeah. But, you know, Nick Frost from Nick Frost with, you know, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, he's in that. I was like, really? Oh, you know, and so he's kind of like a drunken master type character.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so, but my reasoning is because Jar Jar Binks is, and I think not only is he a drunken master, I think he's a Sith Lord. I think he's Darth Sidious's. I think he's Darth Sidious's master. So I was. Again, just throwing it out there, just to stir up some stuff. But you've started your own production company. You mentioned that just now. And your first film is going to be a documentary. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about it. Can't say too much about it. It's a documentary on the history of martial arts cinema.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a multi-episode thing. It's gonna be kind of in the Ken Burns.
Oh, well, there we go.
Yeah, I mean,
and you know, by the way, what a badass narration that would be to have Keith David doing the narration.
Oh my God. For you.
Oh, well, I'm very flattered, but you know, I thank you. You're very kind, but but you know, I do pretty well, but you know, there's a lot of others, you know. You tip your hat to Jackie Chan and Jet Li. I tip my hat to John DiMaggio and Maurice LaMarche.
Oh yeah, LaMarche. Oh my God.
Mo, yes, you know, the brain. Hey.
Oh God. He's so much fun to work with. You ever work with him?
Yes, and he's iconic though. I mean, I'm not in a long time. I mean, you know, he barely stuck his head in at the Comedy Store back in those days, and then
quite a few times back in the day.
Oh yeah, but I remember that he had done that Rodney Dangerfield special with Harry Basil.
Yes.
Yeah, they had done that Rodney special.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Always back to the Comedy Store.
Well, it's that dark route from whence we all came. So, that's why it's painted black. It's like we've all left Mordor. What?
Yeah.
I do appreciate those days back then, but you definitely took the opportunity and really worked with something, and something better came out of it. And you've, again, that wonderful little full circle, starting out in martial arts and returning to the fold.
Yeah, I think with any creative, anybody that wants to get in the creative entertainment industry, I think all your experiences, even though you feel like you didn't follow through, you never finished whatever you think is finishing it, crossing that finish line, that experience always comes to help you in your new endeavors.
Exactly. Yeah.
I never forget this. I remember we were playing in the entertainment softball league. Mitzi would pay for our entry fee for all this stuff, and we played guys like at Universal Studios. We play against Michael Bolton one time. I remember. Wow. Okay. So so I remember we're taking we're playing down in Long Beach, and Mitzi chartered a bus and took us back. And I remember Argus Hamilton told us, he told me exactly. He said, whether you make this your lifetime career or not, there's things you're going to learn in this business that will stay with you forever. And he's so true. And I thank God he's on Facebook, because I talk to him often. I just say, hey, Argus, I don't know if I ever told you this, but thank you for telling me that, because I'm understanding that right now as I'm becoming a filmmaker, and when you learn it, when you have to pitch to people and you have to kind of sweeten things up, take the tension out of things, how to make things a little bit better and sweeten things up.
Right, exactly. You know how to smooth it over.
Right. Right. You know how to kind of just take out the tension out of the situation, and kind of, so we can move on. I mean, and I thank them for it. Oh wow, really listen to that stuff. I go, yeah, of course.
Well, I'm always looking at his Facebook as well, because Argus, pretty much everybody from back in that day, Blake, Jackson Purdue, Steve Kravitz.
So, I just talked to him yesterday.
Carl is a guy I haven't seen on there in a while.
LeBeau?
No, Carl LeBeau is there, and so's Alan Steven. There were three. There were like Buster Brown and.
Oh, Buster's on there.
Yeah, Buster's on there. I don't think Buster friended. I don't think he'd like me.
I don't know, Buster. Friend him.
Probably ain't gonna happen, but love Buster. And then Carl. What was Carl's last name? Carl Edwards. Thank you, Carl Edwards. I think he's a friend on there. I don't know.
Yeah, he's. Every once in a while he'll stick his head up. I think he's working in Vegas. He was working in Vegas.
He was. Yeah, he was working in Vegas. I never heard what's going on with the Todd. Have you heard anything?
I heard he's no longer with us.
Oh, well, oh my goodness. There's a picture running away from your house, man. You should probably, it's running away. You should try to catch that. It's between the wife and the dog. I love it. It's great. But you are pulling off the full Shaolin master there. Look, you've got it rocking there.
I got to do whatever you do to make things happen.
Exactly. Well, anyway, I'm going to let you go, man. I've talked to you for a good bit. I really appreciate your helping me out with this. This is my little thing. And, and thank you for not mentioning anything about the vest. You're like, and for not making any comment about like my friend's kid picked me out. Oh, actually, that reminds me. She asked me to ask this question to my guests. So I'm going to actually ask you two questions.
Okay.
So the question from my friend's daughter, who is part of the show today, was, what would it take? And this can be something of great imagination. It doesn't have to be something you could realistically do. What would it take for you to pursue a career in grave robbing?
Grave robbing. A strong shovel.
A strong shovel. You're already there. You're like, forget this production stuff. I'm going into grave robbing.
There we go. we go.
All right.
Last person's name's Frankenstein, by any chance?
Yeah. Yeah. Sadie Frankenstein, as a matter of fact.
They live in Texas. They're investing in chainsaws.
Yeah, exactly. How are you at digging up a mass grave?
There we go.
And my question for you, because the whole theme of my show, as you know, is the Asylum. Of all the people you know, both in life or, famous, who do you think should be locked away? Who should be committed to a mental hospital?
Oh, boy.
Too many. Who needs to be the first to go? Who needs to be the first to get locked up?
The OR lineup on any given night.
Oh, that's a good. Which, by the way, for you folks that don't know what the OR lineup is, it stands for the original room at the Comedy Store. So there were 3 showrooms. There was the main room, there was the original room, and then they've basically been contracting out the belly room these days. So yeah. The belly room wasn't open at all for just about anything when we were there. It was just the main room and the original room.
It was open on certain nights. For me, when I was there in '86, it was the non-paid room. Yeah, we would perform there. It was always packed on Monday nights.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That was our room on Monday night. So we got to try out our stuff. And I remember, when I was working the back door or parking the cars, Mitzi would tell us, hey, the late show, the 8 o'clock show in the OR is the main room is about to end.
Mm-hmm.
And we're shoveling everybody up into the belly room. So and she'd tell me, get A, B, C, D, E, get the lineup together. So I'd MC that show. So if they wanted more comedy, they'd go up and they'd see us. That's how, Mitzi made more money on drinks and
exactly made more. Yeah. Hey, she was all about making the bucks there.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to apologize to you, and I want to thank you for not bringing it up earlier, how I almost got you into a fight with Chuck Norris. And I really appreciate you're not holding a grudge over that.
I remember that.
You do.
Know what happened after that?
No,
I got to thank you for that.
You got to.
What happened? Okay, here's what happened. I walked up to him and I told him, I trained with Keith Talley, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And he goes, oh, God, yeah. And then I said, remember me? I met you back in the day, when I was competing. He goes, oh, yeah. So we started talking. He goes, send me your stuff. Let's see what we could do. So that's what happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I did go.
No, I took you to his seat.
Yeah, I talked to him. I knew him before. I knew he was cool. But what happened was he's probably a nice guy, nicest martial artist.
Oh yeah, yes. It was hysterical. But I had escorted him in. As we walked through, you were on stage. I pointed you out to him. I said, "Oh, by the way, that's John Kreng. He's a black belt and black belt martial artist." And I took him to sit down, and you came off from the stage from your performance. You'd come around the back of the original room, came out the back door, and I said to you, and I told you that, hey, I just sat Chuck Norris. And you go, oh, I know Chuck Norris. I said, oh, well, here, let me show you where I sat him. Yeah. We walked in we went in that little back ramp right there to the original room. Yeah. I walked in there. Chuck Norris was facing the stage. The show hadn't started yet. I put my hand on Chuck Norris's shoulder and I said, John, this is the guy who said he could kick your ass.
Yeah, we talked for a little bit afterwards.
Yeah.
I remember. And yeah, he tried to get me on some of his shows. It just didn't happen at the time.
It just could.
Texas Ranger.
Oh yeah.
He's a really, really super nice guy.
He really is. He's very straight to the point, and he carries himself very well. And hey, and thanks to Bruce Lee, we know who he is. So, John, it's been a great talk, brother. I really enjoy our time, and you and I have to see each other in real life and actually sit down. You're in the Valley, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
All right. Well,
over. Let's go get some coffee or go to the Bolorama for a couple wings.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we'll get something squared away. It was nice talking to you, John. Have a good one.
Take care, boss. Thanks.
Our next guest this evening helps people get past their mental roadblocks to lead the best lives they can possibly lead. Would you please welcome Master Coach Karla Lloyd. Karla Lloyd, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing very well. I cannot complain. I think I just saw a cat run by. Other than that, I'm good. He's going to be a little annoyed because I got to keep the door closed because my roommate, she's really noisy. So.
Oh, all that electronic.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what trauma. I don't know what trauma in her life turned her away from real music. But we'll figure it out. But you are a master coach, and that's kind of a simplified term for what you do. Actually, it's a lot more elaborate than that. Can you elaborate on that?
I sure can. I am a master coach in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming.
Really quick, give them before we lose people with an undefined word. Let's see if let's explain that neuro-linguistic programming, what that entails.
Yes. So I'll explain all of it. I'm a master coach in neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, and timeline therapy practitioner. So NLP, it is neuro-linguistic programming. It's kind of what Tony Robbins does, but on a deeper scale. What it does is it's kind of like the practice and the coaching method around language and neurology. So basically, we've been programmed with thousands and thousands of hours of language, and that actually has built our neurology. Unfortunately, it's considered a pseudoscience as of now because it hasn't been studied sufficiently. But I mean, I see my clients change one after another. There's actually a lot of studies coming up ever since 2014, a groundbreaking study around infants and toddlers in France. They were Chinese toddlers born in France who only spoken the French language, and they actually did a lot of tests on them and realized that when they played an ancient language, an ancient Chinese language, they actually had recollection even though they couldn't speak Chinese or even remember Chinese, or even if they had heard it as an infant or a toddler or in the womb, they actually recognized, their brain actually recognized it. So there's a lot of groundbreaking science around it, and of course now we know, it changes people. It changed me. It helped me with some trauma around my childhood. And I also do hypnotherapy and also do timeline therapy. And timeline therapy actually has helped with PTSD and phobias. In England, it's a requirement for anybody with PTSD to go through a timeline therapy treatment. I have countless testimonials that have gone through timeline therapy that has helped them, and it definitely has helped me. So there's just a lot more studies need to be done on it, but I see the results every day, and people keep
what exactly is timeline therapy? So
timeline therapy is a derivation of NLP. So NLP is considered a little bit of an older science from the 70s. Mm-hmm. We've done a lot more studies on neurology since then in psychotherapy. So timeline therapy is a process that only a master coach can do. And it's for trauma specifically. It can help a lot of different behavioral issues, but it definitely helps a lot with trauma, PTSD, severe phobias, because somehow the language in it has your unconscious mind speak up, or subconscious, depending on how deep the phobia goes. So the practice around this very specific language to get the conscious mind to kind of go to sleep and have the unconscious mind come out. I know one of my clients had a really, really deep phobia around money, and she couldn't figure out why. 65 years, and after we did the therapy, we did about a 6-hour session. And we actually discovered that she had no recollection of this. She actually had swallowed a penny when she was a toddler. She must have been 2 or 3. Didn't remember any of this. And through the process, she realized that she associated money with death. So she could never make more than a certain amount. Every time she had money, she would self-sabotage and spend it or figure out some way to get rid of it. And after the process, deep in her unconscious mind, she had this travesty, this trauma happened to her, and she associated money with death. So it's pretty spectacular practice.
Now, a question for you. What is the difference between the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind?
So the unconscious mind is something you don't even know, you can't even see. It's completely unconscious. So when someone is unconscious lying on the floor, they're not even there's no consciousness at all. That is unconscious. So for example, the study they did with the infants, it's completely unconscious. The brain recognizes the language, but it's completely unconscious because they have no memory of it. Subconscious is when it's close to being conscious. So let's say, for example, there's a pattern in your life and you keep doing it over and over and over and over again. And you're just like, how come I can't stop it? Where is this coming from? So it's subconscious because you recognize it's there, but you really don't know the depth of it because it's halfway from the unconscious to the conscious. So the unconscious is the deep, deep depths of your brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, how does language affect the child in the womb and a newborn child if they don't understand language, they don't speak the language yet, they have no language function yet? How is that affecting them?
Well, so I'm not a neurologist or a psychiatrist, right? But what we do know is that we pick up language. Babies in the womb can hear classical music. There's certain things that we know. So we don't know why as a child would you make up certain beliefs around things? We don't know. It's just everyone's subconscious, unconscious mind is different. We associate things with symbols. We associate language with certain things. So even though, for example, I can say, what does wealth mean to you, right? Wealth can mean a whole different thing to you than it can mean to me. And that's just how our mind works. Our mind just picks up something and associates, okay, well, I'll associate this with this. And what if, let's say I love basil and I don't even know what basil is, right? I'm a child. And I pick up a plant and I eat it and all of a sudden it just doesn't taste good. So for me, basil, I'm gonna go, it's disgusting, right? So basil equals disgusting. For another toddler, they eat basil and like, oh, this is delicious, I love it. It's like, okay, basil, good thing, right? So for one person, it could be a bad thing. For one person, it could be a good thing. So that's why, as a coach, we know to differentiate and respect each other's models of whatever your beliefs are. If you believe one thing is one thing, that's fine. I don't bring my beliefs to the surface, right? So we don't know why we pick up the things we do. They just are, and they are for different people. Yeah.
Now, we had discussed briefly timeline therapy. Could you elaborate a little bit more? Are you talking about dealing with particular incidents on someone's timeline? Is that
Yeah, so basically we all have a timeline, right?
Yes.
We see a timeline when we see like the COVID virus, a timeline of the COVID virus, and we put certain dates. So we can all picture or feel or hear, depending on what kind of person you are. I'm highly kinesthetic. Sometimes I can't envision something, but I can feel it. Like, yeah, if you tell me, hey, can you think of your timeline? I'm like, well, I can feel a timeline, sure. Some people are very visual, some people are auditory. So the timeline is just the timeline of your life. That's it. Okay. And then the practice of the timeline therapy, the actual therapy, is we don't deal with events. Like, we don't even have to remember things. There was part of my childhood I didn't remember. There were complete blocks. So my master coach was able to put me in the timeline and be able to do this therapy so I could heal from it and release all the negativity from all the negative emotions that I had around those blocks, right, or issues around my childhood. So it works with trauma, it works with PTSD, it works with behavioral issues. A lot of people are like, you know, I keep running into the same relationship. I change people, and it's the same person, right? I change people, they do the same thing over and over again. So we deal with those patterns because they're subconscious. You realize you have this pattern, you realize you keep attracting the same person, but at the same time, you don't know what's going on and why you do it, right? So that's why we do this therapy.
Interesting. Well, that's mind-boggling in its scope. But I guess you're dealing with the mind, right? So I guess that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Now you'd mentioned trauma earlier. So, you know, now are we just talking physical traumas here, or we, you know, like you know, the traumas of an accident, or are we talking more in depth?
Anything. I would love to destigmatize trauma. Anything could be a trauma. For my client, it was swallowing a penny, which that was traumatic for her. You know, there is no judgment there. For her 2.5, 3-year-old mind, that was extremely traumatic. Everyone started freaking out around her, and her mind said, oh crap, money bad, money death, money equals, you know, I'm gonna hurt the people around me and hurt myself. So it depends on your mind. If your mind, there's a lot of people who go to war and come back and they don't have PTSD, but there's some that do. We don't know why we associate certain things with trauma, or why we categorize certain events with trauma. It can be anything. It's whatever it is to you. I also have had some clients who had severe physical abuse and they did not categorize it as trauma. I have one client whose parent died when he was very young, and he didn't categorize it as trauma. I mean, for me, that would be, it was trauma when my mom died just in the last few years, right? Yeah. Let alone a child and his parent dies. So he never categorizes as trauma. It just depends, you know, whatever it is. But if it's causing a negative emotion, it's causing certain negative patterns, or patterns that served you at one point, but they don't anymore, that means it's become negative. Eventually it becomes something, and it needs to be pulled out, or it needs to be released. There's something around there that just needs to be healed.
Interesting. Well, Karla, I thank you so much for your time, and it's been a very enjoyable conversation. I will let you get back to whatever horrible music you were planning on listening to.
Hey, it's EDC weekend. It's the virtual rave-a-thon.
Yeah, so is it like, so we're like having a rave at home, you know, rave at home, safe at home, rave at home.
There's going to be a Zoom rave up in here in about a few minutes.
Oh, well, thank goodness I won't have to hear that. You have a good night.
You too. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye. Thank you. Our musical guest tonight was unable to submit her music due to technical difficulties, so hopefully we'll get her back. But in the meanwhile, we have the original performance from Steven Roth. Would you please enjoy Thinking of Susan?
There were words I never thought I'd forget. Was a time and place I now regret. She was a symbol of my destiny, not lying in the mud of my misery. She took my heart, but so my mind. She left me standing naked in the checkout line. Comes and goes like April snow. She feeds me lines like I should know. I've got a cut that won't be healed, so she buried my heart in a stony field and forgot. Just like feeling sad on a sunny day. Beautiful friend that you sent away. A smile, a shot in the dark. It's all the same. pass this way again. I'm just thinking of Susan. Hey, I'm thinking of Susan. Oh. So now I've got to find my way on my own. She says you're welcome, but I'm not going home. Alone and lost on this dead street, broken glass and stones underneath my feet. Dogs cry out, lights go on, and I look for the signs that lead me out of this time. Feeling sad on a sunny day. Beautiful friend that you sent away. A smile, a shot in the dark, saw the sea. And I don't know if I'll ever find a friend. Don't know if I'll pass this way again. I'm just thinking of Susan. Hey, I'm thinking of Susan. It's just like feeling sad on a sunny day. The beautiful friend that you sent away. The smile, the shot in the dark, saw the same. And I don't know if I'll ever find a friend. Don't know if I'll pass this way again. I'm just thinking of Susan. Hey, thinking of Susan. It's like feeling sad on a sunny day. The beautiful friend that you sent away. The smile, the shot in the dark, saw the same. Don't know if I'll ever find a friend. Don't know if I'll pass this way again. I'm just thinking of Susan. Hey, I'm thinking of Susan. Can't stop thinking of Susan. Oh, do-do-do-do. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to the pre-show players, Sadie, Katz, and Chase Ebner. It's fun stuff, guys. And thank you to our very special guest, John Kreng. You can find out more information about him. Just find him on Twitter at John Kreng. And you can also find out more about Karla Lloyd. Check out her Facebook page, Karla Lloyd. You'll find her. And if you need any more information about these two, you can email me at daniel@earshotaudiolaA.com. You can find out more information about our show and possibly being a guest yourself. Always happy to talk to people. I like talking. In the meanwhile, we're loading it up to YouTube and to a podcast near you on Apple, on Google, on Spotify. On with the rest of our week. And I hope you have a safe one.
Hey, Mr. Stanishevsky, time for your meds.
Well, you heard the man. I'll see you next Monday.